In this session, we are going to learn about file handling in Python. So, basically, we'll be seeing how to write Python code to read a text file, and then we can do some processing on the text file, and also we'll see how to create a new file from within the Python program. So, we can take a sample exercise so that we are able to practice clearly the file reading, file writing, and file processing. So we can take a small task like assume that we are given a text file which has unnormalized white spaces. What do I mean by unnormalized white spaces is that the words in a line are not all equally spaced by single space, rather they are separated by variable number of spaces. So two words can be separated by one space, some other can be separated by 10 of spaces or few tabs. So the file looks like very haphazard. Example, let's take an input file and I'll write 2 3 lines for sample. Hello, and then let's say I give some tabs. Hello all, this is with single space, and then so assume I create these 3 lines inside a file, and as we can see the spaces between these are mixed. Somewhere there are more spaces, somewhere there are less spaces, etc. So we'll save this on desktop and call this as, let's say, input.txt. Now we'll write a Python program to first read it. So let's go to the IDLE. So we'll create a new file here, and let's save this file also in same location as desktop where the input file is, and call it file handle.py on desktop. So the file name is input.txt. Now since my Python file and the input.txt file are both on same location, so relative path can also work, but usually it's a good choice to specify the complete path. So we'll create an object fin and open the file name in read mode. So in while one, we can always keep on reading line by line through this fin object. So fin.readLine will read the first line, etc. Now the property of readLine is that it returns some valid value if the content is there in the file on that line. Once the content or the pointer reaches to the end of the file, and then when we try to do a read line, it returns to us Python null value or Python none, and this is the point at which if str1 will become false. So if str1, that means if content is there in the line, let's say we try to print it, and then we will put an else. This else should be for the if block, so we should be careful. In case of else, that means when if str1 evaluates to false, which is the case when the end of file is encountered, we'll do break. We all now know the functionality of break, and break will bring out of the innermost loop. In this case, loop is while, so it brings out here. At this point we can write some statement like we are done reading file, and then very important to close the object. Here, let's save this. And we'll try to run this to understand whether we are able to read the file or not. So this is the first step of the task, to read the file. Then we'll do some processing of the file to generate a content which is normalized in white spaces, and then we'll also try to write it into an output file. So let's do step 1. So now when we run this, we are seeing the content of the file. Hello all, this is Python training, and let's all learn the fundamentals of Python, and we are done reading file. So this means that we are actually able to read the complete file till the end, and this was possible because we were able to place the code blocks in right places. So we should be careful of putting break at the correct point. And now, as a step 2, we'll try to write this content into a new file. So first let's do step 1, like we'll write the complete file into an output file. So what we can do is, let's say we have another file object, but this time we are going to create the file, and we'll call this as output.txt and create it in write mode. Of course, even in this case, it's a good practice usually to specify the complete path, or if you're working in the same directory as the input file, output file in Python code, then you can use the file name itself. So this will write in desktop because the Python code is on desktop. So the moment we read one line, what we can do is we'll do fout.write. So fout.write will write this content into the output file, which is referred to by fout object. So we read one line from input file and we write it into the output file. Also, once a line is read, we should be putting next line into a new line, obviously. So after a line is read, we should write fout.write a new line character. Otherwise, all the content will be pushed into the same line, and instead of 3 lines in code file or input file, we'll be saying only one line. At the end, we should be closing this. So in this step or phase 2 of the code, what we are creating is a clone or a copy of the input file in the output.txt. So let's run it, and then we'll go and see the desktop whether output.txt is created or not. So there is no error, but to actually validate that our task is done, we should go to the directory in desktop, and yes, just now it has been created. Output.txt file is there. We can see the content also, and output.txt is just a copy of input.txt. Still, the task is not complete because we wanted output file not to be a copy of input file, rather we wanted all the lines to have the white spaces normalized. So let's do the processing task now. Now we know one thing, that str1 is a sentence for us. We have already seen how we can convert a sentence with some words into a list by using split. So let's say I generate some my list from str1 by using split. Now split is a beautiful function because it always splits by white spaces. So irrespective of whether you have 3 spaces or 10 spaces or 18 spaces, we always get the list with all words, and split has been done by white spaces. We can see this also when I print my list in all the cases. Let's just first see what my list is in each case. So if we look at this, there's a lot of space between hello and all, but when I do split by white space, I just get hello as the first element and all as second element. Similarly, in this is Python training, we are able to get a list of 4 words. And the same thing is for the third line. So what we see here is that irrespective of white spaces, split is able to split the complete sentence and we are able to get the words. Now only thing that's pending is that we have to join all these words or all these elements in list by a single space. And if we write that string back, it will be normalized string. So what we are saying is that my str is equal to, we will join it by single space dot join the list. And in fout.write we should write this process string, and we can also comment these things now. So what we have done, again I can iterate, we have converted this string to a list which has all the words in that sentence by using a split, because split splits by white spaces. Then we have joined the elements of the list by a single white space and written that into the output file. So let's run it and then we'll see the content of output.txt. So there's no error. Let's see what output.txt looks like now. Ideally it should have now the white spaces normalized. So now this is the output. So this was the input and this is the output, and we can see that what we have done is we have normalized the white spaces inside the file and the file now looks neater. So the objective of this session was to understand how we can read a file, how we can process the content of the file, and how we can create an output file. This is gonna help us long way in writing Python programs which do a lot of file handling and a lot of file operations. Thank you.